Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Sheena Anderson in Central Virginia, True Medicine founder, and today I want to talk about something that affects nearly every person walking the planet, whether they realize it or not. It's the difference between living in survival mode and living in state of thriving. Most people think that anxiety, overwhelm, poor concentration, brain fog, emotional ups and downs, or even poor decision making are simply part of life. But what if many of these struggles are actually signs that the brain is stuck in a survival pattern? You see, the brain has one primary responsibility above all else: survival. From the moment you are born, your brain is constantly scanning the environment and asking one important question: am I safe? If the answer is yes, the brain can devote energy toward learning, creativity, healthy relationships, problem solving, and personal growth. But if the answer is no, or if the brain perceives danger, the entire system shifts. Resources move away from higher level thinking and toward protection and survival. This is a beautiful design that when you are facing an actual threat. But the problem is that when many people remain stuck in survival mode long after the threat has passed, the brain may still be reaching to an old concussion, childhood trauma, chronic stress, emotional loss, inflammation, toxicity, infection, or even developmental challenges that occurred years ago. The body may be safe, the environment may be safe, but the nervous system never received that message. And so it continues to operate as though danger is right around the corner. When that happens, we often see symptoms such as anxiety, depression, panic attacks, difficulty focusing, memory challenges, sleep disturbances, emotional reactivity, sensory overload, and brain fog, as well as chronic exhaustion. Many people tell me that they know exactly what they should do, but they simply cannot seem to do it consistently. They know they should eat healthier. They know they should exercise. They know they should stop reacting emotionally, yet something keeps getting in the way. The issue is often not motivation, it's neurological access. When survival circuits dominate the brain's executive centers become less available. The very parts of the brain responsible for planning, organization, emotional regulation, and wise decision-making become overshadowed by survival programs. This is where NeuroCode enters the conversation, because NeuroCode is designed to help identify areas of communication within the brain systems that may not be functioning efficiently. Instead of focusing only on symptoms, NeuroCode asks a different question: what neurological communication pathways may be contributing to these symptoms? This shift in perspective changes everything. Rather than asking why someone has anxiety, we begin asking what areas of the brain may not be communicating efficiently. And rather than asking why a child struggles to learn, we begin asking whether sensory processing pathways, visual pathways, auditory pathways, or executive function networks are functioning properly. And rather than asking why someone feels stuck, we begin asking where the neurological bottleneck may exist. In fact, recently, working with a client who originally chose to participate in NeuroCode sessions because she was preparing to become a NeuroCode practitioner herself. She wisely recognized that if she was going to teach and help others through this process, she should first experience the work personally. So her concerns weren't about skin problems and they weren't about digestive systems, which were all issues she was actually challenged with physically. But her focus was preparing her own brain to better absorb the training and fully integrate the material she would be learning. So during her first session, we focused primarily on the brain's ability to perform and self-regulate emotions and move out of deep survival patterns, specifically survival emotions. And what happened next completely surprised both of us. For months, she has struggled with skin rashes and digestive challenges. Those issues weren't even the focus of the session. Yet the following morning, she woke up and noticed that the rashes that had been aggravating her for months had dramatically improved and pretty much disappeared. In fact, much of the irritation had disappeared overnight. Even more remarkable, her entire complexion had changed. She was absolutely amazed. and so was I, because that wasn't our goal, but that was an outcome. And that tells us that the brain, indeed, in survival, had been responding on the skin surface to the stress she was chronically under and unable to manage. Now, every person responds differently, and NeuroCode is not designed to diagnose, but rather to assist the brain in like a rewiring or reprogramming to improve its function. So experience like this remind us of something incredibly important, that the brain is the master control system of the body. When the nervous system begins moving out of a chronic survival response and into a more regulated state, unexpected improvements can sometimes occur throughout the body. Many people underestimate how much energy the brain spends managing stress and survival. When that burden begins to be lifted, the body often gains resources it can now direct into repair, regulation, and restoration. Through NeuroCode, we explore systems such as visual processing, auditory processing, balance and coordination, memory pathways, speech and language centers, reflex integration, executive function, and emotional regulation systems, as well as sensory processing networks and movement patterns, as well as proprioception, the body's awareness of itself in space. One of the things that makes NeuroCode unique is that it looks at the entire neurological operating system. We are not simply looking at learning. We are looking at how the brain processes information, controls movement, organizes speech, interprets vision, processes sound, regulates emotions, and coordinates higher-level thinking skills. The entire NeuroCode process typically requires about 6 to 8 total hours of sessions, usually done in a single hour at a time, and normally about a week apart. Within this relatively short period of time, we systematically assess and improve the communication pathways involved in learning, movement, speech, vision, hearing, proprioception, executive function, and self-regulation. When these systems begin functioning more efficiently, something remarkable often happens. People frequently report that life feels quieter. Not quieter around them, but quieter inside them. The mental static begins to diminish. The overwhelm begins to decrease. The constant feeling of having to push through every day begins to soften. The brain starts spending less energy protecting and more energy performing. And that's the key. The goal is not simply symptom reduction. The goal is improved brain function. Because when the brain functions better, many symptoms naturally begin to improve as a result. One of the most exciting outcomes we see involves decision-making. Healthy decisions come from the frontal lobe, and these are the areas of the brain responsible for planning, impulse control, consequence, evaluation, emotional regulation, and goal achievement. When survival systems are overactive, access to these areas becomes more difficult, and people react rather than respond. They become trapped in patterns rather than creating new possibilities. As neurological integration improves, individuals often report something fascinating. They don't feel like they are forcing themselves to make better decisions. Instead, healthy decisions become easier, clearer, and more natural. It's as if the brain finally has access to information and resources it needed all along. Instead of constantly asking, how do I survive today, the brain begins asking, how do I grow today? How do I serve today? How do I create? And what is possible for my future? This is the difference between survival and thriving. A thriving brain learns more effectively. It regulates emotions more effectively, and it forms healthier relationships. It solves problems more creatively, and it adapts more successfully to life's challenges. And perhaps, more importantly, it allows individuals to become the person they were created to be. For many people, the symptoms they struggle with are not signs of weakness. They are signs that the brain has been working overtime trying to protect them. NeuroCode seeks to help the brain realize that danger has passed, to help restore efficient communication, to improve neural processing, and to reduce the static, and to create an environment where calm, clarity, learning, growth, and healthy decision-making can flourish. Because when the brain moves beyond survival, something extraordinary happens. People stop merely getting through life, and they finally fully begin living it. If you'd like to learn more about NeuroCode or explore whether it may help you, your child, or someone you love, reach out to learn more about NeuroCode sessions and practitioner training opportunities coming this fall. Because your brain was designed for more than survival. It was designed to thrive.